It's loud. Intro.
Yeah. This is where the music goes because that's all we got to start this.
Yeah.
So we're back. It's season 2 again.
You're talking about the intro music.
Yeah.
If you listen to us on the streaming platforms, there's usually an ad that plays music first because I was listening to it in my truck the other day. I'm like,
really?
that's fancy. Jason put music in the beginning of it. And I'm like, wait a minute, this is an ad for Menards.
No, it was definitely.
was that meant to be? I don't know what it does on YouTube, but on at least on the major, I don't know what I think I was listening on to it on what's the
Apple Podcast.
Apple
Apple
Podcast.
Podcasts,
So,
yeah.
anyways, we are back. We are. It's actually, as we're recording this, cold and snowy in Indiana.
Yeah, I'd like to point out that I was lied to. Right before we're about to close on a property down here, I was told originally that it doesn't snow in southern Indiana.
Now, Chris can back me up on this. We have not, like the last 2 years is probably the first time we've got measurable snows in a while.
I've been off NDOT for 3 years, and they have not plowed any snow.
Yes.
Prior to that, I was running wild with NDOT plowing snow.
Yeah.
So I got on, got the overtime, and got off. And it has not snowed.
So there was snow, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
But it always, I'm going to get way off subject on this podcast right off the bat. Cause that's what I do.
Well, you're not off subject because they don't even know what this is.
Oh, okay, good. So we're still on subject.
Yeah.
It cracks me up. It's like, I was putting millings on my driveway.
Yep.
And somebody will comment, I never live there. I'd never drive down that in the snow. And I'm like, no, wait a minute. Let's think about this. You're not going to position your house in one of the most beautiful views in the country.
Well, you're biased.
Because you're concerned that maybe 3 days out of every 3 years you can't get to your house. Like I'm going to live my whole life around those 3 days.
That's a lot different actually, because that's not get to your house. Have you ever been able to not?
I've never been able to not get to my house. And believe it or not, I'm going to air quote here. None of my vehicles ever been in the ditch on this side of the driveway.
On that side.
Now, there's been some people from Pennsylvania that possibly hit the ditch.
Well, just on the way here, and we went to Tell City, and there's snow plows everywhere. They're plowing parking lots. I was like, it's 45 Saturday. Just wait another day.
I know.
Just hang on, guys.
Just hang on.
Yeah, it's supposed to be cold tomorrow.
Those are billable hours. I'll have you know.
Yeah.
And we got, what, inch and a half?
I don't know. Yeah, we didn't get much. Yeah.
I mean, just enough to get a little slop on the roads. And then, so anyways, around here, whenever I was a kid, we used to get 2 or 3 decent snows a year.
Yeah.
The last 10 years, we're lucky to get an inch and a half dusting.
Yeah.
And I know you guys are going to find this hard to believe, but I do not plan my life around our snowfall.
Yeah,
If they could see over your shoulder and they'd see your busted up plow.
Yeah, they can tell. They can tell how much I really care about snowfall around here. So
that doesn't make the Dirt Perfect channel.
Well, then you go down. They complain about where we build houses out around here.
Oh my goodness!
And then they talk about the roads around here, and then we go to Gatlinburg, and these things are hanging off cliffs on 13% slope roads, and I'm like, no, what is it really?
Are those chopsticks?
I can't believe you build the house at the bottom of the hill. Well, sir, I can't reach the top. It's just that simple. It is just that simple.
We are way out in the weeds now.
Yeah, we are way out in the weeds.
What are we talking about?
Who are you? For the people that can't see you.
Am I hiding?
No, you are Farmer Chris.
Farmer Chris.
You're back again.
I think Chris might be our most frequented guest. Did he outdo Todd?
They're tied now.
They're tied now.
Yeah.
That's
Twice.
I said that I want to have Todd on the podcast again, and someone had the audacity to comment that they had enough of Todd.
Oh boy!
It's like, just for that, you're getting 2 Todds.
Well, I mean, in his defense, a little Todd goes a long way.
Don't give him catchphrases. He listens to this.
So that means Chris is only our second returning guest.
Yes, but I have a feeling we're gonna have him back a lot because I got a lot of questions for him.
Because we have. Not that we have I don't know how impressive that is, Chris. We don't have a very long guest list.
Yeah, I know.
For now. So, anyways, for you guys that don't know, Chris does have his own YouTube channel, Farmer Chris. I guess we could somewhat say it's a little bit of a spin-off of the Dirt Perfect channel.
That's kind of where it started at, yeah.
It's just
for sure.
When was the last time you picked up a grain bin?
This is true. You mean knocked one over?
I'd like to go pick it up.
Chris is a good customer of Dirt Perfect, and more importantly, become pretty good friends over the last couple of years. Chris and his whole family. So, We are back this evening, and we're going to. We got kind of a broad topic here a little bit.
Try again. Broad.
Broad. What
There
I
you
say,
go.
bride?
You said bride and then
I'm
Brad.
not. I'm not marrying it.
Yeah.
I go in there, I edit videos. I say some of the damnedest words.
Yeah.
You're telling us. We watch them.
You know what?
How long did it take you to speak Mike?
Yeah. Well, I spell check most of his video titles and then text him, hey, you might want to correct this.
The worst one I had was actually on one of his jobs whenever I was rip raping at a bank.
Rip reaping.
You did what?
Supposed to be rip rapping, but I decided to rape her.
Well, how does one rip rape?
Well, with that sized rock, it hurts.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna say.
Wow, we were family.
Yeah.
But yeah, so somebody commented the other day that they're going to make a killing making a translation, Dirt Perfect Translation Dictionary.
I got to figure out how to make it
I
first.
said, good luck with that. I'm not consistent enough.
I still think Logger Wade's got you beat.
Oh, yeah. But
He has his own terminology altogether.
I don't even know if he understands his own
Yeah.
language.
doesn't.
Because he'll say something.
He's like, I don't know what I'm talking about.
Well, he'll say something. You repeat it back to him, and he stares at you. I'm like, no, wait a minute.
Yeah.
You made it up. I'm looking for guidance here.
Webster's greatest challenge.
Yeah.
Logger Wade.
You don't get the right to the goofy look. You know, that's where I started out. So, all right. Anyways, we are getting off subject again.
Yeah. So I have some questions for Farmer Chris because Farmer Chris is basically subject matter expert.
Okay.
Especially
Well, I
for
don't
all
know
the ones
about
in
this.
one. Yeah. So I got this picture here the other day, and the camera can see it on the phone. It's a picture of a fertilizer bin,
Okay.
and it says, "This was sent from a farmer I know. Brace yourself. Food prices are about to double." And it's this bay of fertilizer would have cost me $18,000 last year. Today we put in for just over $40,000, and it was the same quantity. We got a tote of Roundup, 275 gallons last year, $4,900. Today, just over $14,000. These are not just the only two inputs for growing a crop, but take note to this. So, is there any truth to this?
Input prices has tripled
Tripled.
for 2022.
Oh, great. So there is truth to that.
So I'm going to ask one question right here off the bat. You mostly farm, for people that don't know, you mostly farm grain.
Yes.
Two different types of grain, corn.
Corn and soybeans.
Soybeans.
A little bit of wheat, but not a whole lot.
What percentage of your crop actually goes to food for people?
In a roundabout way, it all goes to food.
Okay. But I guess,
there's byproduct, there's products that comes out of
I
it before
guess
it gets
my
there.
point of that statement is these prices are going to affect a lot more than food.
Oh, yes.
Because
Yeah.
because soybean oil goes into everything from shoes to
Diesel fuel.
diesel fuel to
ink and all that stuff. So, yeah.
So I don't think whenever people see printed ring, they think about soybeans in a field.
I didn't.
Yeah.
I just learned
Because
something.
soy oil is very universal.
Yeah.
I probably should have researched this before we looked it up.
Yeah, soy oil is a major trading at the Chicago Board of Trade.
Yeah.
Malaysia oil is its biggest competition. So
Really?
they kind of play off that. But once you squeeze the oil out, I guess, or process the oil out, then you get bean hull pellets and soybean meal.
Okay.
Those all go back into livestock feed as a co-product, which then goes into the food chain.
Well, that was my next point. Is I think a lot of people think you harvest the corn out of the field and it goes straight to a can on the
Now,
shelf.
ours is not sweet corn.
Right.
Ours is what we call yellow field corn or white. Now our white food grade corn goes straight to food, like your tortilla chips.
And I mean that's fairly small percentage in the United
So you're
States.
fixing to tell me that Taco Bell is going to get more expensive?
It could.
Ah, crap.
The white corn market and what I'm seeing or hearing, I mean, I'm no expert on this, but as our Hispanic population grows, the white corn market will grow
increases.
too.
But so to kind of follow your food chain here, whenever you say farming's going to affect food prices, it goes through a lot of different channels.
It goes to a lot of channels before it gets there.
And because, like you said, the corn turns around and gets made into feed,
Yep.
which then goes to
Livestock.
livestock, which then gets turned into food. So
Yep.
I mean, that the pass through is just, I don't know how to describe
But
it.
still on corn, there's a large percentage of corn that, goes to ethanol plants first. And then you get what you call your corn gluten.
So,
Goes to your livestock feed then.
for the people who don't know, ethanol plants are going to directly affect gasoline prices.
Ethanol follows crude oil, so crude oil affects corn prices. Corn prices will follow crude oil
Really?
just due to the ethanol market.
That's interesting. I never knew
Do you have
that.
any idea what percentage of the corn raised in the United States goes to ethanol?
I do not know offhand, no. The big thing you got to keep in mind, though, with our location where we're at here in southern Indiana, the Ohio River and the transportation,
Right.
there is a large percentage of ours crops in this area that does not stay in the United States. It goes on a barge, New Orleans, ocean liners, and on overseas for trade.
And that's a big difference compared to the people like in Iowa and Minnesota.
They're stuck with rail or trucks up there,
And
so
the ethanol plants are, I mean,
they're
I'm gonna
every street corner.
I'm
in
going to
Iowa.
exaggerate here, but
Yeah.
every town's got one.
Yes. Yep.
So, you have to truck your grain, which that's another expense. What's the closest elevator or dock? 40 miles?
44 miles one way.
And a lot of these guys that farm out west, I mean, they're going 5 miles round trip.
Yeah, they're pulling gravity wagons and tractor. A lot of them just because they're 7 miles their farthest elevator.
I don't want to venture too far off subject, but I think this is another thing to compare here is farming is not farming. You see Larson Farms?
Larson Farms.
These guys giving them a hard time for running in the mud up there. That's what they have to do in their neck
Yep.
of the woods.
Yep.
Yeah.
They give Chris a hard time for trucking his grain 60,
Yep.
80 miles round trip. That's what he has to do.
Yeah.
Yep.
The guys in Iowa, they can pull gravity wagons to their elevators. So just because, and then we're not even talking about the difference in dirts.
Yep. Yep.
You know what I mean? So it's, I guess to go back, it's kind of like with me and excavating. Well, that's not how Jay Paydirt does it. That's not how Let's Dig does it.
Yep.
Well, I'm not excavating where they're excavating.
What little I've been on the YouTube, what few videos I've put on, I've seen that, well, it's easier to do it like this or it's easier to do like this. And, well, it is for your area or for your manpower.
Could you imagine if you had the flat fields of Iowa?
I'd get lost. Yeah.
You
I'd
need
get lost.
GPS, just find the other end of the field, more or
Yep.
less the next field.
Dirt Perfect Towing and Recovery be out of business.
Yeah.
So,
But then, back to the trucking, we haul some of our grain to Consolidate at Mount Vernon. That's 100 miles one way to their scales. So,
and you're paying the same. I know your margins or your local elevator will have what they call it, the
basis.
basis,
Yep.
which will be basically above or minus the
Board of
Chicago trade. But
Yep.
And
but the Board of Trade price is the same for Iowa as what it is here.
Yes.
It's just
Yep.
the basis would be
The
different.
bases are different across the nation. Yep.
so when you're talking about an elevator, you're talking about in a hotel,
Nah, yeah, it's a grain elevator or a
which is basically where
large corporate ADMs, your Consolidated Grains, Owensboro Grain. That's
no, I'm saying it's basically
It's,
it's where you take your product.
it's where I
to
take my grain to dump.
It's the
To sell to market.
wholesaler that purchases from the farmer.
Yep.
Yes.
Is that the best way
Yep.
to put it?
Yeah. Just because someone's not going to know.
Now,
Yeah.
Chris, I mean, even though he has to travel mileages here, you have, 3 or 4 viable options to market your grain?
This year wasn't too bad. 2020, we dumped at 7 different places.
Really?
Yeah.
And I was just chasing prices?
Yep, chasing prices. Actually, a new market come up for us last year due to we had some real dry corn come out of the field early, high quality corn, and I don't know if you'd call it going into the food market, but it went to Kentucky. They kept calling it whiskey corn. So we hauled a lot of corn to the distilleries or
It's
to last
calories.
year.
Calories in.
Yeah, that's borderline. I mean, some people drink their lunch.
Yeah, very
So-
true. So I guess okay, so you're saying that 2022 you're looking at a 3x multiplier for
Inputs.
inputs.
Yep.
Would it be safe to assume, without getting into any financial information, that you'd be looking at a 3x output?
No.
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 So
We might be 2x output right now.
whenever you say that, you're basically talking about not the yield you will raise, but the price per
The
bushel.
price per bushel. Yeah. We come off with exceptional yields off 2021. We had a lot of good yields in 2020, so 2022 is going to have to step it up a notch to compete with that and with the input prices going in.
So it's going to be harder for farmers then to even stay afloat at this point.
There's a lot of pencils being sharpened real sharp right now.
Yeah.
So I know I don't know how much you want to divulge, but I know you're well diversed in the larger community of farming group, a couple different organizations. So, like, what's the overall, like, what's within the industry, what's everybody's battle plan to survive 2022?
Everybody's going at it totally different. Everybody's going at it different. Kind of our battle plan right now, we're going a lot of soybeans just because it takes less nitrogen, less fertilizer. You know, the risk ain't out there. We're selling fall beans right now for $13, so that's a pretty good price. We struggle with some corn market or corn
So
yields
whenever you
around here.
say you're selling fall beans, basically you can sell futures.
I'm selling futures.
So they're going to guarantee you a price in the fall of X, and you say, I agree to that,
Yep.
and you sell so many bushels. So basically you're selling a crop you haven't even planted yet.
I've got 30% of my crop sold already
And
for
then
next
just
year.
to be clear,
or
you
for
don't
this year,
get paid on that until you deliver.
until I deliver.
Gotcha.
Yep, because
So
we ain't
you're
set the
just
basis on it yet.
Right.
You're just agreeing on price
We're
per
just
bushel
yes,
and quantity too?
and
or-
quantity yes.
Okay.
Yep, our plan. We know we sell like 5,000 bushel increments.
And then,
Kind of take baby steps at it. It's
what would you say a bushel is for somebody, something that someone could visualize?
a bushel of beans is 60 pounds, but I don't know how you put a size
Well,
on
you
it.
know, Goldilocks, or not, was it Goldilocks or the little red fox? Yeah, Goldilocks. That was a bushel basket when she
Where the
brought.
hell? What?
Small trash can
Yeah.
is a
Okay.
bushel.
55-gallon barrel will hold about 6.5 bushel corn.
55-gallon barrel, 6.5 bushel of corn.
Okay.
There you go.
Because
All right,
I sold corn out of the field in 55-gallon barrels this year. I had a guy wanting some deer food corn.
I was
So
going to say, why do you know that? But I just decided not to answer. Yeah. Some
Yeah.
questions are best left
So
unanswered.
one thing I want to put this in perspective for people that can maybe understand this a little bit. So
Yeah.
Chris's inputs have doubled 3x.
Yes. What?
tripled, not doubled, tripled. Yeah, tripled.
They went up 6 times. Oh, crap.
No,
Okay, we've
tripled.
already established I'm not good at English and I'm not good at math either. His inputs have, you got the joke. I'm glad you got it.
It was a joke, sure.
All right, focus. Inputs up 3x.
3x.
Outputs up
2x.
2x. So
Maybe.
basically I mean, there's a huge percentage missing. So let's just say you got an hourly job. I'm trying to figure out how to relate this to everybody, but
You're getting paid $15 an hour,
yep.
and you work 50 miles from, or you live 50 miles from work,
Okay.
and it costs you $3 a day in gas to go to work.
You're going to get a $1 raise.
You're going to get a $1 raise, and it's going to cost you $9 to go to work now,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah. And that's what,
Chris is like, I might have to change professions.
well,
No,
that's what
I'm actually, it's nervous.
well, I'm trying to relate that to somebody that has an hourly job or something to
Yes.
kind of understand what these guys are facing
Oh, yeah.
coming forward, and what these guys
But-
are facing are going to affect you because that's going to affect your inputs from food and gas and
Right,
shoes and makeup.
but-
Makeup. That's what a lot of soybean oil goes
Yeah.
into.
Oh, that's
The other
right, yeah.
thing to look at too, I guess, is we don't know the future.
Right.
Because we was sitting here this time last year, or I was in the office. Inputs was up. We was looking at $3.85 to $4 corn for fall of 2021. We actually backed off the corn some. We was heavy beans this year, but not all beans, you know. Well, then you get to the fall of 2021, here we are selling $6 corn.
Okay.
So even though it looked gruesome in January, when the fall got here, the market had adjusted. You know, we can sit here and be crying the blues today and be
Right.
looking at $9 corn this fall.
Which would be a whole different ballgame.
And that changes the whole thing.
Okay.
Then that's when your food prices will take off.
Right.
So explain what makes soybeans a safer investment than corn?
For us, it's just less inputs for us.
So it just costs less to put the,
Yes, costs less up front to put an acre of beans out.
on the average, is the margin the same on corn versus beans, or is there a better margin on one or the other?
For us, soybeans is better margin for us right now.
Better margin?
Yeah.
So that would, from a business standpoint,
Yeah.
that'd make, especially
Yep.
if the inputs are,
I mean, it's just
everybody always talks about the 300 bushel corn and the big tall stalks and all this. Nobody
Yeah.
ever brags about their beans.
Right.
It's like, I don't know why the beans they're not near as glamorous as the corn,
Yeah.
but
I have very nice beans. Thank you very much.
but I mean, if the money's there, the money's there.
Right.
you got to have the money available to plant it up front too. You know, if I go borrow $500,000 for last year's crop and inputs go up 3x, now I've got to find somebody to loan me $1.5 million to go bury in the ground. Hopefully, I can go dig it back out this fall.
Well, hopefully you can dig up a little bit more.
Yeah, I know.
fall.
That's where it gets scary. That's the numbers.
Yeah, maybe less risky than this roller coaster of a stock market we got.
Oh, I
now,
know.
too.
Oh, how do you feel about OnlyFans? I mean,
I just had that conversation with somebody on vacation about stock markets. So
I thought you were never mind. Oh boy.
it's very risky. It's a world market now. You know, when I was a kid following Dad around, it was a local market or a U.S. market.
Right.
Now we're trading the world. I mean,
This is
beans just went up
yeah.
over $1 a bushel in the past 2 weeks because South America's thinks they're going to have a drought.
Oh.
So now they've got rain. They dropped 30 some cents today.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And this is all going on while he's potentially got $1.5 million buried in the ground,
Yeah.
Yeah.
not knowing what's going to transpire over what's the growing season, 90 days, 3 months.
Yeah.
Why? What drove inputs to go up 3x?
Availability.
Okay.
I'm going to say, I might get this wrong. Mosaic is almost owns all the phosphorus in the world.
Mosaic. Who's Mosaic?
That's a company. It's a Mosaic company, but they do have all U.S. phosphorus.
Okay.
Where are they based out of?
Florida.
Florida.
Or that's where the U.S. phosphorus pit is in Florida. That's where they're mining phosphorus at.
Just a quick,
Definition of a monopoly.
Yeah, they're almost a monopoly.
so just a quick definition of phosphorus and how you guys use it in farming.
I don't know. It's a fertilizer. You need my agronomist on here to start answering these questions.
It goes back to burying stuff.
You know, if you go to Home Depot and see a fertilizer and it's 19-19-19, that's the analysis of it. Phosphorus is your middle number.
Okay.
Soybeans, corn, both likes phosphorus. I mean, that goes on both crops.
And that's basically is it not necessarily a stone, but it's just dug out of the ground, right?
It is manufactured out of the ground, but it's mixed with some nitrogen in its process of forming it too.
Okay.
So there is some nitrogen with it. So, but Mosaic, I'm gonna say Mosaic. I'm pretty sure that's what it is. But the phosphorus company does not like the import phosphorus.
Okay.
So I knew we didn't want to go here, but they have lobbied our government to put a tariff on import phosphorus.
Which basically makes them a monopoly.
Yes. So now
But technically they're not a monopoly.
they're not a monopoly. So
But they're going to be.
yep.
It's like saying, well, I'm not the only guy selling it. I'm just $50
Well,
cheaper.
they're just saying they can't make money in the U.S. because the imports are undermine them. So they lobbied for the U.S. government to put a tariff on other phosphorus, which allowed them to raise their price.
In a very inopportune time.
Very inopportune time.
So did that also create a shortage?
The phosphorus, I don't know if it's a shortage. Potash, you're talking about some shortage.
Okay, so phosphorus is just an increase because of
Yeah,
regulations. basically.
regulations.
If regulation, I was saying greed.
Potash is coming out of overseas. For North America, Canada is our largest potash mines. There's
So back to
several large
I
mines.
got one question on the phosphorus real quick, Chris. So that affects our price of phosphorus here in the United States.
Yes.
So the other places that farm, like you said, South America or whatever, is the
Their phosphorus, I don't know, they ain't got a tariff on it, so
so their
importing-
inputs may be cheaper down
their
south.
inputs may be cheaper down there.
Now you
because-
guys got to compete with them.
Yep.
Okay.
I guess that's where the projected 2x output comes,
Yeah.
and that's why you can't match a 3x output.
Okay. So then potash is your next.
Potash, or large potash for North America, is in Canada.
Okay.
Mined very deep.
And this is just another type of
It's
fertilizer.
another mineral out of the ground.
Right.
That's your last number in your analysis.
Okay.
Phosphorus, I think, is strip mine, surface mine.
Okay.
Potash will be all underground mined.
Okay.
They're going miles deep. We just actually had a meeting on this last month. Everybody thinks the earth temperature is at 55 degrees. They said a potash mine runs about 85 degrees down
Because
there.
they're that deep.
They're closer to the core.
That is crazy.
Said they're never worried about the roof buckling in. The floors will buckle up because of the pressure coming up. So,
That is.
but some of the potash mines flooded, and they couldn't get the water pumped out. So some of the major potash mines in Canada got shut down, which takes supply out. And then here again, you're just dealing with imports. Russia ain't wanting to play fair. China ain't wanting to play fair. Some of them buy them up and just set on them just to drive the market up.
Just people with money playing games.
Yep. And then when we get to nitrogen, which is your first number, which nitrogen is mainly your corn or your hay or grass type of product. It's derived a lot from natural gas. So as natural gas goes up and down, that's where it comes from. And the big scare we had last year with the outage in Texas, the big freeze out in Texas,
Yeah.
there was a natural gas shortage.
Right.
Nitrogen plants was forced or volunteered to shut down to conserve natural gas. Well, once they shut down 2 months and then fire back up, they're
behind.
behind and can't get caught up.
Right.
But now the U.S. nitrogen companies are following Mosaic. Hey, if they can get a tariff on imported phosphorus, why can't we get a tariff on imported nitrogen? So now that's what we're running. We're kind of watching the nitrogen market now.
Oh.
I think one thing worth pointing out here is that it's not one thing. It's a whole.
It's a big ball of wax.
Yeah, it's everything from
Nope.
cold snap in Texas to flooding
Yep.
in Canada
Yeah.
to people lobbying for tariffs to.
Now, what about urea?
That is nitrogen. That's
That's
a form of nitrogen. Yes.
Okay, so because I'm seeing about potential urea shortages for DEF.
I don't know if we've had a cold snap here, but overall we've had a warm winter in the U.S.
Which should help the natural gas
Yep.
inventory.
And I just seen an article in Europe. You got to do the world market.
Right.
Natural gas is at 50% of its high 6 months ago. So in Europe, natural gas is tanked.
Way down.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
But we're trying to get tariffs
Yeah.
in place.
Yeah.
So that won't affect us on the input end again.
Yep. So even though they can make nitrogen cheaper in Europe, it's a 3-month trip to get that to a building in southern Indiana.
Right.
Can we get that cheaper product if it's available cheaper
If you're lucky.
to southern Indiana in time for?
What were you? You were telling me something over vacation, I believe it was, that one of your fertilizer salesmen says he orders it like 3 or 4 months in advance.
That's what I say. He has to order 3 to 4 months in advance to get it here. And that's another driving market for our area because just like grain going out, all of our imports comes to New Orleans.
Right.
We'll hit New Orleans this summer.
Hurricane.
Big hurricane. All of our reload ports, our cranes, all just got demolished. They're rebuilding down there right now.
Again, it's
Bayer.
not as,
This is not making me feel
Bayer
good.
had a large glyphosate / Roundup
Okay.
plant in Louisiana that got wiped off the map.
So I'm trying to think of how to ask this question without sounding stupid.
if you're like me, just to
But
ask.
they are bringing it back online But can they make enough product in the next 2.5, 3 months?
How reliant are you on herbicides?
Totally reliant.
Yes.
Yes, it's
And pesticides, I assume, too, then.
yes,
Now,
we do.
Are we looking at shortages
Well,
on pesticides, too?
pesticide, I call pesticide is everything. Pesticide covers everything. Under pesticide, you got herbicide, insecticide, fungicide.
Okay.
Pesticide is your umbrella, I guess.
That's me sounding stupid.
I'm over here just listening and learning. You go ahead there, buddy.
Yeah, I thought pesticide was like insects and stuff only.
And some of this chemical prices skyrocketing. Don't hold me to it. I'm kind of jogging my brain here. A lot of this is the main ingredient is produced in China
Okay.
and shipped over here, then blended to make the chemicals we need.
Okay. And this is talking like Roundup.
Roundup, a
commercial
lot of products, yes. Well, China has typically never been concerned about smog or pollution.
Right.
China's getting ready to have the Winter Olympics. They have shut every coal-fired plant in China down. Any polluter in China is shut down to make it look beautiful for these Winter Olympics, which just totally cripples these manufacturers over there.
I'm at a loss for words. By the way, we got to eat if we want to watch the Olympics.
Well, it goes back to being.
So it's a world market.
Yeah, that's
Right.
what I was getting ready to say. You know, a world market. So it's not even like you were talking about with stocks. It's not what Bob does down the street affects you. It's what
Yeah.
Right.
yin yang across
Yeah.
the ocean affects you.
I should bleep that out, but I'm not going to remember.
That's a Chinese.
And you know, we
Do
might
apologize
have,
no disrespect. It's just
and some of this we need might be sitting on one of these 70 liners out in the Pacific Ocean somewhere. We just can't get unloaded.
We're going to go there, too.
well, since you kind of brought it up here with Roundup and
Yep.
herbicide,
Right.
insecticide, and everything. We had an interesting conversation about the Sheeple Village down there,
Yes, we did.
and I think you had a pretty good explanation of them. I with all these lawsuits and everything going on, I personally think people are so misinformed about the uses of some of these chemicals and
Oh, yeah.
how dangerous they really are.
Yep.
And more importantly, what the consequences are if they're not used.
Yep.
Yes.
Correctly.
Period. Because
Yeah.
so I'm no expert. Chris, take it away.
Well, I mean, I'll touch base on the Schubler Village. It's a historic settlement.
There's a guy here in our community that has a farm. He's went all throughout the surrounding communities, found historic buildings, moved them to
Old
his
schools.
farm, and he has like Pioneer Days, and it's a museum.
I
It's
mean,
a walk back in time.
It's back in the 30s, yeah.
Guy with the rock crusher?
So no.
Oh, okay.
So he has 10 acres of row crop ground out front.
Okay.
We was in the area. We got hooked up to rent it. We farmed it 2 years. He had mailed us a letter not to farm it because they don't like the fertilizer and the chemicals. Because
wanted
that's
to- he wa-
not in
yeah.
the way the 30s done it.
Wrote you a letter.
Wrote me a letter and mailed it to me.
Was it on like parchment paper?
No.
I mean, he didn't write you
So-
an email, so I just had
So
to ask.
we wrote a
He was
letter
saving the
back.
electronics.
Yeah.
We understand his concern. We understand how they farmed in the 30s. We cannot continue farming like that and feed the world that's already in hunger.
Yes.
I mean, it takes this technology, it takes this chemicals. If every farmer farmed organic and raised a fourth of what they do now, the world hunger ain't even started yet.
Right.
The reality of it is it's unrealistic
Yeah.
because you're feeding. I'm just going to use generic numbers here, but you're feeding 4x population with half the land.
Yep. And
But
another
you're
thing
putting Wi-Fi
too,
in my ground. Sorry.
you know, I don't know, glyphosate kind of takes a rap because it's a popular chemical that's being used right now. It's at a 32 ounce an acre rate. I mean, 32 ounces and you spray it across an acre.
Good God, Mike drinks more.
It's like
more Pepsi
very
than that before
fine
breakfast.
mist on some of these plants.
Yeah, and you're diluting it with just water.
20 gallons of water to the acre.
Okay. And that's the only thing you're diluting it.
So you take glyphosate off the market,
Yeah.
and we still got to kill these weeds like we did in the 70s and 80s. It takes a mixture of 6 or 7 chemicals together to kill this. So
that are all much more, much worse on the environment.
Yeah,
I mean,
much worse on the environment. You know,
that chemical was invented to save ourselves from all the others.
Right. Well, this goes back to.
I also get aggravated that people have a problem, but they don't have no solution.
That's what I was just going to say. It goes back to somebody being very angry about something, but never offering up.
give you a little information on glyphosate or Roundup.
Okay.
It was formed as a commercial cleaner,
He told me this the other day.
Can you imagine?
and it killed things. So they started spraying off field.
No kidding.
Yeah, it killed the grass. No, it was
Truck is
designed and
shining
formed.
and my yard is gone.
It was designed as a commercial cleaning solution.
So it was never intended to be a weed killer.
No,
That's crazy.
when it was designed.
Boy, it's cleaning that ground great, though.
Round and shine or
Yeah.
round and drown.
Only what is it? Only rain in the drain.
So even times like when we use atrazine in a sprayer, a lot of times you can run Roundup through it and clean the atrazine out. I mean, it's a cleaner.
Really?
Yeah.
That's a really bad chemical. I better clean it out with another really bad chemical.
So they're not bad chemicals. They're
my
just
potent soap,
Yeah.
they
Well, that
just
was my sarcasm.
it's where technology is taking us right now.
So it just in the 30s, what was weed control? People walking through the fields pulling weeds out,
pretty much in the 30s would be hoeing, yeah.
or cultivating.
Well, in the it's 30s, like when your tractor started coming out, I guess 40s, or it's still in the 30s. They still cultivated, but a lot of it was horse-drawn stuff. We had 60-inch corn rows. So when I say 60-inch corn rows, the rows of corn was planted 60 inches apart.
Yeah, now.
So the horses could walk up through there, but now we're 30 inches, so we're putting another row.
So you're getting twice as much corn in the field
Yep.
as you were in the 30s.
But once the leaf cover comes over, it's also harder for the weeds to take.
Yes, and that's what we get closer together. So.
Other than Johnson grass, which is
Actually, years ago, I haven't seen one work. Actually, called trip planters. So it would plant 3 or 4 kernels of corn every 60 inches in 60 inches row, so they could cultivate it in a checker.
really.
And you run a cable down through there, and it had knots tied on this cable that the planter followed.
And it
Every
just-
time I hit that knot, it dropped, and then you move your cable over 60 inches and hook the planter to it, and
so it just skip.
it'd save the seed and then drop them, save the seed and drop them in piles. It was an old trip planter.
What the new was it the new version of that I seen? I don't know, up in Minnesota or Iowa, they were experimenting with planting 2 rows real close together.
That's twin row technology.
Twin
yeah.
row technology.
Yep.
What's the advantage of that?
They're just trying to cover more area,
Take more advantage
ground
of-
area.
Take more
yeah.
advantage of the acre.
But still leave a wide enough path for our sprayers and tractors to get down.
Gotcha. So we're getting a little bit off subject here, but corn is 30-inch rows, right?
Well, I'm gonna say the majority of the acres in the U.S. is 30-inch.
And then beans is 15.
They're mixed. You watch Millennial Farmer, they're 30-inch beans. I'm not sure where Larson's is. There's a lot of 20-inch beans. We went from 7.5-inch row drilled beans to 15-inch. In this southern Indiana area, the majority of our beans are probably 15-inch.
And what is it by area or by ground type, or what determines that?
Environment.
Environment?
Yeah.
Because I know up in like Minnesota and those guys, they have a lot shorter window, correct?
Just going by Millennial Farmer, I don't know if I'm allowed to quote him or not. They fight a white mold. So they got to keep
Spacing.
Keep spacing, keep the sun in there, keep a breeze in there. Just, mold's going to grow on a dark, moist area.
Gotcha. Which is that something we fight here?
No.
So
No.
that again goes that farming's not farming.
Yeah, farming's not farming. We got different.
You got to know your area and know.
Yep.
Right.
know what all's.
And we cannot bring their seed down here and plant, and they can't take our seed up there and plant. It's all.
Now, is there a possibility of like a seed shortage, or are we just looking at?
I have not
fertilizer?
heard of seed shortage yet.
Okay, is that anything's possible, but is that a likely event?
No.
Okay.
No.
Is that an input that's went up? Seed?
A bag of corn went up $3 a bag, so it's
So,
very,
yeah,
very
little-
minute compared to what everything else
Okay.
has.
Um,
Your chemicals, your fertilizer's your biggest thing, just because it's such a broad and the massive tonnage we put on. Chemicals, some went up, some technologies went up, some technologies went up very little.
Right.
Depends on what technology you're using. And that's where some guys are using is looking around for different technology.
So this is going to be, I'm going to hit you out of left field with this question. You ready for this? So I would consider you to be a very technology dependent farmer.
Okay.
Would that be an accurate
Yeah,
statement?
yeah.
When you guys run a precision planter,
Yes.
you GPS map all your trip fields, you got all your yield maps, you variable rate all your fertilizer.
Yep.
Is that correct?
We variable rate some fertilizer.
And then we'll just call him John.
Yep.
Like you know what I'm talking about. He is probably farming with 50s, 60s technology,
Yeah.
planting with Ford 5000 tractor.
Yep.
What's the combine he's got? 4440 John Deere maybe.
Probably so.
Don't even have a smartphone.
Yep.
Farming about 300 acres.
my kind of guy.
So going into 2022, does one have the advantage over the other?
I'm gonna say the precision does,
Okay.
because a lot of the technology we're going through now is applying fertilizer for this year according to the removal of the grain from last year.
So to just dumb that down a little bit, you have information about your hot spots and your cold spots in your
Yes.
field as far as yield.
If a spot in a field took off 300 bushel corn, that took off more phosphorus and more potash. So we're going to put more back on. But if we get a part of the field that only brought 120 bushel corn, there ain't no need of dumping all that expensive fertilizer on there because it didn't take that much off last year.
So basically, you're saying that
See, I would have thought that exact opposite. I don't need any fertilizer. It's doing awesome. This is doing crappy. Let's pour it to it.
If it's doing awesome, it took off a lot of nutrients.
because basically when you're fertilizing the ground, you're filling the ground up with nutrients,
Yep.
and then when the crop grows, it's sucking them out.
We take soil samples about every third year.
Okay.
So then we apply by soil samples to try to get the field, you variable rate
Right.
to try and get your field even.
So-
And then you do removal.
So to compare that to John, our
Yeah.
anonymous farmer,
Yeah. Farmer B.
Farmer B, he don't have any of that information. So
Correct.
is he blanket? He's just a
He's
blanket
just flat applying.
blanket applying that somebody told him to put so much per acre, and that's what he's going to spread.
If it calls for 500 pounds
So
of
if your
triple 19,
inputs,
that's
so
what
if your
they're putting on.
inputs are up, you may be using less fertilizer on more acres because you know where to apply it versus him.
We might be putting the same amount and the same dollar on the same field.
But you're putting it in a different
I'm
place.
putting it where it's going to bring me more return than where it's not going to bring return.
Right.
Okay, so that's we'll call that the variable rate fertilizer.
Yep.
The other technology is in the planter.
The variable rate planting also.
So basically what John's using is he's got a wheel that runs on the ground.
Yep.
Turns a little cam. Every time a hole comes around, it drops drops a seed down.
If he's got set at 28,000 or 30,000, whatever somebody's told him to plant, that's
So
what
a
he's planting.
couple different things. Whenever he gets to an end row, he may
Overlap.
If he goes around a corner, the inside rows are going to be planted closer together.
Yep.
The outside rows are going to be planted farther apart.
Yep.
So basically, your seed consumption
Yes.
goes up, but that don't mean your yield goes up. Your yield could actually go down because it's not planted as efficiently. Correct?
It's too thick in some spots and too thin in others.
Too thin
yep.
in others.
And our fields around here ain't the 1,000-acre squares. So when you start pulling 30-foot wide planters in these triangle fields,
Yeah, I was going to say
overlap is a major thing. So
Yeah, because like your fields, how many do you have that are actually rectangular or square? Every one of them's got a curve or a
I don't know if we got any that's a perfect square.
yeah. So that technology has
Yeah.
got to be a huge advantage.
So every row on our planter will shut off at an overlap,
and that's done off GPS.
all GPS.
So you're chasing efficiency to like the
Yeah.
point of a percent.
So I guess my point is that investment in technology even more important on a year like this
Yes,
one
it
coming
is.
up?
It is major technology. I mean, it's major.
So your potential return on investment are penny pinch in 2022. Let's call
Yep.
it that.
Yep.
It started 3 years ago, or 4 years ago, or
Yep.
5 years ago. This investment in
Yeah.
technology.
Now, how about talking about technology? Because I've got a couple questions
Well,
to go back
I
to.
just want to make one quick point here.
Yeah.
One huge advantage Farmer B has, or Farmer John has,
Mm-hmm.
is his equipment costs pennies compared to yours.
The other advantage that Farmer B has, he might be able to plant 20% more acres a day than I can because he don't know if his planter's planting or not. He's just
Driving.
driving.
Right.
If my monitor says, hey, there's something going on with row 6,
You're going to stop.
I'm out looking at it, investigating, fixing.
And
then
he don't
taking
know that
off.
until the corn starts
He
popping
don't
up.
know that until 4 weeks later and the corn comes out,
right.
But I mean, in reality, and I don't think I'm exaggerating here, he's probably farming with $50,000 or $60,000 of equipment. Where you're
Yes.
farming with
Oh.
well over $1 million of equipment.
Correct.
So my question goes along with that then is we've covered the inputs in a sense of the seed's not really going up, but the fertilizer's going up. How much is the technology going up? And then the running cost of this technology? Because you're talking about some big equipment
Yep.
with big engines, with big fuel tanks.
I've got a video coming up on fuel tanks or fuel.
And that's on the Farmer Chris YouTube
Farmer
channel,
Chris.
which is
But
difficult to find by searching.
There's about 7 Farmer Chris's.
Yes, I
He's
will.
quickly becoming the more popular one.
Yes,
though.
I will link that in the description.
Diesel fuels went up in the last
Oh, I do
year.
know it.
You
Yeah,
know,
I
just
just-
follow the gas, so
Yeah.
diesel fuel goes with it. So
Yeah.
we're packing a lot of fuel. A lot of our tractors, combines are burning 15 to 16 gallons an hour. But the acreage we're covering
An
in that
hour.
hour. Yeah.
An hour.
Yeah,
Think
I mean,
about
it's
that. An
Yeah.
hour.
between the grain cart tractor, your combine, 2 trucks running. I mean, it's not. I mean, you can burn close to $2,000 worth of fuel a day.
I ain't never put a math to it.
I did roughly one day. I think.
Yeah.
Well,
I
real
mean,
quick.
think about that.
All right, so what's your combine run? Burning an hour?
It's probably, we're probably burning 100 gallons a day on the combine.
So
Okay. Tractor?
Grain cart tractor probably runs 30 gallons a day. It ain't a whole lot.
trucks.
And then your 2 trucks are probably 100 gallons each.
And then
Take that times.
$4.11 a gallon? Or that's on road?
I mean,
Yeah,
13, 1,500 somewhere in there.
Yeah, a day.
a day. Yeah.
And so it was better when fuel was half of what it is now,
Yeah.
obviously.
Yep. Parts is going up just due to parts availability.
Yes.
The COVID has really shut some of these manufacturing plants down, U.S. or not. John Deere went through that strike deal last fall, so some of the John Deere parts, they done pretty good, but it's still just driving the market up on parts.
Well, you know, John Deere had the strike, and everybody's got their excuse, but at the end of the day, 2 years ago, whenever you shut the world down, everybody had inventory.
Yes.
Now the inventory's disappeared, and nobody wants to go back to work.
Yep.
Yep.
That exactly.
Work
And,
and
you know,
Exactly.
I remember the conversations when the world shut down. We're fine. We got inventory. We got this. It'll be fine. And nobody was worried then because for 6-8 months we were fine.
I said 7 months inventory is what we had to burn through.
Yeah. And,
Time out. I was worried.
well,
From day one.
No, I was too because I know from being a business owner.
Yeah, we were screwed.
It's just
Yeah.
like what we were talking about with what Chris produces, the footprint of that, the fingerprint, how many things it affects.
Yeah, thanks.
Yes.
It's a chain reaction, and
So I got a quick question along those lines. You talked about importing phosphorus.
Yes.
What about exporting? Not phosphorus, but like your corn, say. How much of the corn is exported out of the country and how much corn do we import into the country?
That's what I question the whole time, even on phosphorus. Even though we've got a large phosphorus plant in Florida,
Right.
it's unreal the amount of phosphorus we import and that plant exporting. We got ocean liners passing.
Right.
And it's the same with corn. I don't know if we import much corn or beans. Now the beef side, I've noticed, we export a lot of beef,
Right. Export.
but we import beef too.
Right.
Why?
Well,
Now
you're setting me up for a trap.
Yeah.
I can tell you why, but I'm not gonna.
No, I did, so I don't know. It seems like we're trying to save the planet in the wrong way because we've got trucks passing each other doing the same product.
Right.
We need to get more, for me, like the electric or natural gas line, I might sell natural gas to a company in California, but just because I sell it to them, that ain't my gas. I just pump this many gallons into the line. They buy that many gallons off the line.
Right.
But it's the supply there. It's the commodity there.
Yeah.
And it ain't like it on everything else. We got to,
I think what you're trying to say is everybody needs to get on the same page.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we're passing the same product going two different directions and burning fuel doing both things,
Well, everybody wants to do what is convenient and popular, not what really needs to be done.
Yeah.
Let's talk about those people.
Oh boy. I hope we have
right.
a can of worms here, didn't I?
Yeah. Well,
But back to your question, we do export a large amount of soybeans out of the U.S.
Okay. So with a strained supply chain and no reserves on the shelf, do you foresee us continuing to export a large amount of beans?
Oh, yeah.
We're not going to bother to.
U.S. is the powerhouse of the world right now.
Right.
South America is becoming our biggest competitor on row crops.
Okay.
Livestock, U.S. is exporting large amounts of meat protein right now. But some of this, when you talk about export pork and import pork, we might have to break it down. It can be deceiving because I even heard on the TV this morning while I was watching it, U.S. has labor shortage, supposedly because everybody's scared of COVID.
Yeah, that's
the meat packing plants already took a beating.
Oh, yeah. I remember that.
Yeah, they were one of the first ones that shut down.
Yeah.
So
I was going to say, because we're going to talk about exporting
China,
meat, and I'm going to be pissed because I just paid $8 a pound for ground beef.
so like the hams off a pig we used to process here, we don't have the labor in the plants to do it. China is now buying the whole hams. So we're exporting pork, which is a whole ham.
Live?
They've got the labor. No, it's a ham.
So we're shipping
Part of a pig.
Part of a pig off.
frozen
Yes.
on a ship.
On a ship.
across the ocean.
So China's taking this whole ham.
I'm trying to wrap my head around the lack of efficiency there.
They're taking this whole ham. They've got the labor.
Uh-huh.
They're deboning it, processing it,
Right.
making it into
Ham.
Usable.
packets, usable meat,
Right.
and importing it back into the U.S. and it's still imported pork, but it's in a different form. We've
It's the same pork we
used their
shipped over.
labor
Yeah.
to break it down because our
And-
labor force won't do it.
And shipped it twice.
Yes,
Frozen.
yes.
I mean, it's the reality of what happens, and nobody wants to talk about. It's what it comes down to.
Yeah. And I knew that we were going to get into that, but I mean,
But here's the other reality of it
Lord.
is thankfully somebody figured that out so we can eat.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's true.
You know what I mean? You got to look at the other side of it. Is somebody had enough forethought to realize that we don't have the workforce here to do what we need to do. We can ship it over here and get it back,
Right.
but that don't make it efficient, and that
Right.
don't help the price.
But even, general public sees, if they're paying attention to any market, $6 corn, they're seeing the meat markets. Their grocery bill has raised.
Oh, yeah.
Farm Bureau has done a survey that still the general public is not blaming the farmers for this at this point.
Oh, it's not
It's the middle guys. I mean,
Right.
so that was a meeting I was in at Indy yesterday with the Indiana Farm Bureau. So
Do you kind of find it that you farmers kind of ride a wave a little bit? Some years you're the hero, and some years you're the zero.
most years we're the zero.
But
no, it can go both ways. It's
Should see if you can get in the same support group as the nurses.
well, I guess one thing I haven't drove my point home is what the farmers do, how many other things it affects in our food chain. Like
Yep.
what Chris does
Oh, yeah.
affects
It's not
our
even
food,
chain,
but
our
it's
daily
not.
life.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
everything from, well, I guess, I don't know.
Yeah, it's in all. It's food, fuel, fiber.
I read a list one time. Just
Wow.
search soybean oil and what all it's in. There's thousands of
Oh, I know.
thousands of products, and I'm pretty sure one of the bigger ones is makeup.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
like,
yeah. Makeup's large on it.
And so so your raise in makeup price could go back to his raise in
Right.
inputs, whether it be phosphorus or
We're just so many generations removed from the farm right now.
Oh, talk about your
That-
meme.
yeah. So the whole thing that spurred this whole podcast is I don't know. I've probably seen this 3, 4, maybe 5 years ago. I think I even sent it to you when I seen it. And I've seen it before.
If I can find it, I'll put it on the
But it's
screen
probably
somewhere here.
it's probably the most true meme I've ever seen in my life that explains today's society.
Right.
And it's a picture of a farmer going through the field with a harvester,
Yep.
harvesting corn,
Yep.
and the caption says, "Why is he doing that? He can just go to Kroger and buy it
Yep.
Yeah.
Because food comes from the grocery store.
because food comes from the grocery
All
store."
food comes from the grocery store.
And it don't matter what it is, whether it's his Pepsi, AirPods, this table, phone, that microphone. It's not that simple.
I was gonna say none of this came from the grocery store.
Well, but the list of stuff that
Maybe the Pepsi.
comes, I mean, things in all these components come from around the world.
Absolutely, yeah.
Come there. And you start putting obstacles or speed bumps or
Well, that goes
hiccups in
back-
that road.
Yeah, that's the person
Yep.
complaining about the chemicals, not even knowing what the chemicals are for.
Right.
You know.
So
Yep.
if you start telling the beauty pageant circuit to stop using makeup because it comes from soybeans and they use glyphosate on it.
I would maybe watch that beauty pageant.
Well, I'm just saying, sometimes
That'd be interesting.
I'm not saying you shouldn't be passionate about what you're
Yeah.
advocating for, and if
Yes.
that's what it is, that's fine. But
Absolutely, yeah.
people don't educate themselves on the consequences of what they're talking about.
Yeah.
That's the point I'm trying to drive home, I guess.
So I cheated a little bit. I've admitted I'm not smart, but I do have smart friends. And I asked a friend of mine if she had some questions for you, and she did.
Is that Google? Is that Google?
No, it's my friend Jessica,
Oh, okay.
and she's a lot smarter than I am. So I've been trying to hit on some of these because they're good questions, and this one kind of goes under the person that we just described, the person who doesn't quite know what they're talking about, but they look for a solution from somebody else, or maybe a big entity per se. So when inflation starts to get out of control, there are certain things that this very large entity or the federal government can do to step in and kind of control the inflation and how it's affecting the end user. Is there anything that they can do to step in and kind of fix this mess before it becomes a big mess?
Chris is going to be very careful about this answer, I believe.
I don't know if there is or not, to tell you the truth.
I mean, it's kind of like when you go back to a couple years ago when
it just depends on who wants to rub whose back right now. I mean,
right.
yes, we can get rid of short answer, no. I don't think it can be fixed in the time period we need to fix. We need these inputs in April and May.
Right.
We're got our back against the corner.
And we're in
Everything we're going to use for this spring is probably in the nation right now, and it's already manufactured
right.
or shipped at this cost.
So not only is the purchase price basically already locked in and been cried about,
Yep.
the quantities are already here, and more is probably not coming.
There's more on the way.
Okay.
It just depends on what spring we have.
Right.
If we have a dry spring and planters get to roll in late March, April here for Southern Indiana, we're too late. If we have a wet April, a wet first half of May like we have some years, and we're trying to struggle last of May, the 1st of June,
Right.
we can get some inputs here yet, I think. So
Okay. So it's going to come
it's
down
weather
more to
basis.
time.
Yeah. It's you're playing with you've done pulled the pin on the grenade and threw it. You're just trying to beat us right now.
That's a good way to put it. See if you can outrun your own
Yeah.
coverage.
You got to figure out how far you can throw it.
Yeah.
Now, in the past, in certain scenarios, the government has stepped in with some subsidies for you guys, haven't you?
Yeah, I mean, there has been some good subsidies, but there again, you told me not to get in politics too deep. So,
Well, I mean,
I guess my question is that possibly something the government could do to help offset this 1 year?
There is, but we'll just have to wait and see. Yeah, we'll have to wait and see.
To me, the question with that is,
Where's
How
the
do
money
you-
come from?
well,
Yeah,
there's that.
yeah, yeah.
We won't even have to go into that
Yeah.
weed. If the product is physically not here,
Yeah.
how do they go about helping?
Well, yeah, it don't matter how
Yeah.
much subsidy you give you, the product's not here. You
They
can't
give
do
you
it anyways.
$100 bazillion, and it
Yeah.
doesn't
Useless.
matter. That's kind of like with the whole shutting the world down was a bad idea
Yep.
kind of thing. And I mean,
Now,
yeah,
the shortage we've talked about on fertilizer so far is commercial bought-in fertilizer.
okay.
There is a natural form of fertilizer,
Yes, I was actually kind of thinking about this in the back of my
and
mind.
we have ran our semis crazy buying every ton of turkey manure
Right.
we can find. Our lagoon's setting with 2 million gallons of hog manure for this spring.
That's something else.
We are
mention,
going to
too.
be, I'm going to say 60 to 70% of our acres will be covered with a
fertilizer.
natural
Right.
organic fertilizer this spring.
Because that's something worth mentioning too. You don't just do planting farming; you also have livestock,
We've got hogs and cattle,
right?
and
Now-
then we buy a lot of turkey litter, which we got Far Best Farms here, which is a family-owned / corporate
Right.
Far Best Farms. So they're the 5th largest turkey farm in the nation.
Oh,
So there's a
big farm.
lot of turkeys associated with Southern Indiana.
Right.
Few in Kentucky, few in Illinois. So
talking about farming in different parts of the country, is that available to people in Iowa and Minnesota? And
Iowa's been known for hogs for the years, but there's not enough hog manure to cover
cover their acres. out
cover
there.
their acres. So,
So that-
some farmers will, some farmers won't. So it's just.
So would you say that would give you maybe a slight advantage going into this year?
Yes, it will.
Having
Yeah.
that available
Now,
to you.
how do you put down natural fertilizer? Can you still utilize?
Well, if they watch the Dirt Perfect video, they'll see where Farmer Chris got stuck, and I had to go help get his little. Did you get stuck, or did I have to get?
No, we could not get the
I had to go
pile
load
loaded
it. That's
because
right.
it was in a.
Long story short, I
Yeah.
got a video spreading poop.
Oh no. Well, my question's more because we touched on technology, chasing efficiency with this technology. Can you use technology when you're spreading manure?
Yes, but sometimes manure is not as a consistent
Okay. So
product. So even though you're trying to variable rate it, you can just flat rate it at like 3 tons of the acre,
Right.
and you're variable rating because it's
Because
'Cause
it's
going-
just inconsistent.
but you're not necessarily going to hit
Analysis.
those
Yeah.
hot and cold spots. So you're
your
trading.
product's not consistent.
Now, our
Yeah.
tractor and turkey spreader, we can write a prescription, which is a prescription we call a map, you know,
Right.
to variable rate. Turkey litter or lime, we can spread lime too with it. So I just, for the availability we got, it's not efficient for us to do that at this time.
Right. So
Not that you have an abundance of it, but
Yeah.
you got
We got enough to get
enough to be a
to.
little generous
Yeah.
with it.
so you're going to supplement your synthetic fertilizer with natural fertilizer.
Yep.
Which will toss your efficiency of fertilization a little lower, but still be
Well, in places it will.
right.
In some places it won't.
So here's a random question for you. What are the benefits and the disadvantages of turkey litter, chicken litter, or hog manure?
Can you use could you use cow
I'm
and
gonna,
horse too?
I'm gonna
or-
put those 3 in one category versus commercial fertilizer.
Okay.
You're getting more micronutrients
From the naturals.
from the naturals. So, you got your copper, your zinc, your iron or magnesium or manganese. I mean, your manure is just packed with micronutrients. The hog manure is not so much, but the turkey and chicken is most of them is bedded with like a shavings or wood product shavings, which will break down into organic material, which turns into nitrogen at one point in time. Which even as wood shavings or organic material, it's water holding capacity. So
right.
when we get into a dry time,
It helps.
it's sitting there absorbing water, holding it, and then releasing it as we need it.
Thinking
So,
of it as a sponge.
yeah, it's a sponge. The higher organic material you got, the bigger your sponge is.
Gotcha. Versus the synthetic fertilizers.
Synthetic fertilizer, you're not getting your micronutrients. It's just, when we're going turkey manure, we're going 3 to 5 ton an acre. Synthetic fertilizer, you're going 300 pounds an acre.
So it's a lot more punch and a lot less quantity.
Some of the fertilizers, you know, you can get into some talks with the right people. Some of them gets a high salt level too, so you got to watch some claims you can, you know, burn your ground up with some salt too. So it depends on how much you're putting on of it. So
does that mean you basically have to monitor that and then go back with some lime or something to cancel it out? Or?
well, lime's going after pH, so that's your acidic level in your ground. So what we got to watch with on lime is as your sawdust breaks down, it will change the pH in your soil because sawdust is high acids. So
Gotcha.
Now, where could you get sawdust?
well, like these turkeys are, it's all kiln dried shavings.
Okay.
So it's not coming out of, you know,
all.
like a green sawmill. Not like our feedlot, we are getting green sawdust from Logger Wade. Is what we bed our fat cattle with there. So
Does spreading cow manure used to be a big deal back in the day. Does anybody do?
you don't see it, or the cattle farms in Perry County are dwindling. I mean, that's where we're picking up a lot of our acres at.
Now, can you use cow manure?
Any manure,
Horses too?
horses.
Sweet.
There's a guy in Corden, John knows. He's hooked in with Tyson chicken processing plant.
Okay.
And he gets all their almost blood and guts.
Right.
You know,
Well, they
the
used to
offal.
call them.
Which is still, I mean, it's
It's
organic.
like a slurry,
material.
you know.
Yeah.
It's and he knifes it in the ground. It's fertilizer.
Right. I mean, it's an organic material.
I mean, the Indians raise corn with the fish, so
Yeah.
Yeah.
so there is. If you're close to municipal, we had a possibility to get it. I couldn't bring myself to do it. Pelletized human waste,
I've heard of this before.
and it's good fertilizer, but some of that you gotta watch the heavy metals in
Really?
human waste. Yeah,
So if they listen to rock and roll.
yeah. It's been
Yeah.
I don't think that's
no. There is some heavy.
that's not
That's
heavy.
definitely not a country guy.
There is some heavy, harmful, heavy metal micronutrients you got to watch with that.
The Black Sabbaths
Yeah.
and stuff. And the Metallicas.
Yeah, that's not the same heavy metal I'm kind of thinking of, but
Sorry. I can't help it. So I got two more from Jess, and she's typing. So
oh boy.
Taking all of this information into account, what would you recommend that somebody listening should probably maybe start considering doing now in preparation for what's coming in the coming months, I guess?
Well, I mean,
Is
not
she
every.
asking if we should start hoarding food?
Yes. Not necessarily should we start hoarding food, but like, would it be a good idea for somebody to say start?
I don't think you're going to need to start hoarding food. You might go to the grocery store wanting cream style corn, just have to settle for regular sweet corn.
Right.
You might go wanting hamburger buns and have to settle for just a loaf of bread. You know, the food supply is going to be there. Your options
the choices
may not
may
be
dwindle.
there. You
Okay.
know,
And then
that's kind of what I'm hearing or what I'm seeing.
and then what about the cost of it?
The cost it's. I think eventually it's going to have to go up. It's going to take, it'll be another year yet before it goes up. But, mom and dad plants a garden and cans and freezes a lot of meat. So
That's, I think, what she's kind of getting at.
I give mom a hard time because she's out there raising green beans and a small garden. I said, there's some poor green bean farmer in Michigan trying to make a living that you could buy it on a shelf for 50 cents a can. You're out here sweating tears and cussing because you're trying to get a can of beans.
But to go with the gardening from a different perspective is whether you live in the city or the country, I don't think it hurts to start having the mindset of how can I be sustainable without
I agree.
I don't know if it's without society, but it's just I'm not saying you need to be a doomsdayer. I'm not saying you need to panic and buy a whole bunch of food.
It's not a Y2K where we need to go hoard all the food in the world's coming
so
in.
you live in Chicago on a balcony. Can you grow a tomato plant in a flower pot?
Oh, I got a flip side to that too.
I mean,
If you do that and you realize that well, okay, I live in an apartment. I got my flower pot thing and whatever, and I went to the Lowe's and I bought some tomato seeds and I bought pot mix and I put it in there and I planted that son of a bitch and I watered it every day and nothing grew. Well, now you might have a little snippet into the lifestyle that Chris lives.
Yeah. What it takes to feed millions, but not only that, if it does come a time to where for a 3-month period that's the only tomato you got's on your balcony, at least you know you can do it.
Right.
And what's a tomato seed cost? A penny?
Yeah.
I mean, the investment on that.
We're sitting there discussing a possible food shortage from possible inflation.
Right.
I can tell you my biggest fear, I don't know if we'll see it in my lifetime, is the population growing versus the ground we got to raise the food on. We're losing
farmland.
We lose like 3,000 acres a day of farm ground due to growth somewhere.
Right.
You know, now we're growing an abundant amount of food. It might cost some, but we've got food. But as population grows and takes our ground, and we're losing row crop ground, ag ground,
eventually they're going to have to level
eventually
off.
That teeter-totter is going to flip the other way.
Right.
You might be spending your money on food instead of gas.
Right.
You know, the other thing you're losing a lot of farm ground to right now is them solar panels.
Yeah, we got into an argument on that the other day too. So,
well, the other thing that do you think, because I know you're involved in the 4-H's and stuff, do you think there's a real possibility of losing the farming knowledge?
We lose people every year
I think
you get fewer and fewer farmers and get bigger and bigger farmers.
I think it goes back to what we were talking about Farmer John or Farmer B before, is the initial investment to be sustainable is not 100,000 no more, it's $1 million plus.
And even the interesting thing, I think, is what you're going to see the parents that's farming pretty good size now and struggling. Their children are seeing them struggle, seeing their lifestyle move off the farm.
Yeah.
And they're a very successful farm, but there's a lot of labor and a lot of sweat and a lot of tears and a lot of sleepless nights that comes with it. But then you've got youth out there that's eager to learn farming. So I think you're going to see some of these farms be handed off to non-related, non-blood.
And I mean, some of these farms, I mean, like Welker's, and they're like, what, 5th generation?
Yep.
What's millennial? He's sixth or fifth.
Yep.
Yeah,
he's pretty
I
far
thought
up
his son was 7th generation.
Yeah.
Yeah, you might be right, actually.
I mean, you think about it, that's what, 150 years of farming on that ground?
Yeah.
That may come, not saying their farms are going to come to an end.
Yeah, but just if you use them as
there's
an example.
other farms out there like him
that's 150 years of trial and error. What works here?
Yep.
Information.
So, yeah, I mean, so I don't know. I just fear that one day we will.
And you guys are 2nd generation, correct?
I call myself 2nd generation, I guess. You know, the family, I'm going to say we're farther than that, but the farm that Dad and me and John farm, nothing was handed down to us. You know, we've bought it all. So I call Dad a 1st generation farmer, and I'm a 2nd generation because we didn't inherit a farm that's already been farmed in the family.
Of course, we're sitting here talking to Farmer Chris, but we should probably acknowledge that yourself, your dad, and your brother.
Yes.
And I'd even say John's wife, Olivia, is probably
a
pretty big part of it.
And John's standing off camera.
Yeah, and John's standing over here in the corner. But
he's been feeding us information and answers. Yeah.
But, I mean, you guys, you got one part-time employee.
Yes.
But, I mean, you are the true definition of a family farm.
Yes, we are.
And every time somebody asks you how many acres you farm, you say,
too many some days.
You say all of them, but
no, it's. I don't know why some farmers get so touchy-feely how many cows you own or how many acres you farm.
Well,
I don't know. But
I think it's just a way to keep score. It's a number.
Yeah, it's a number to keep score. So,
but I mean, just throwing out numbers here, Chris can maybe farm 2,500 acres and 60 different fields, and the next guy can farm 2,500 acres and 2 fields.
Yeah.
So it's not.
It's not apples to apples.
It's not apples to apples.
See
Yeah.
what I did there?
Yeah.
It's not corn to corn. Okay. Do you know much about hydroponics or aquaponics?
No, I don't.
No.
No.
Okay.
Is this farming under the sea, or what is this?
It's
It's some algae farming for
basically,
power.
yeah.
They're doing some power generation
Really?
off algae.
No.
Oh, okay.
No, it's when you have either a pond with fish in it or
Okay.
a pond that you would put chemicals into to get the nutrients. And
Oh, yeah.
you don't use a soil base to grow plants. You're using the water. So they're floating on like styrofoam boards, and the root structure goes straight into the water
Really?
and sucks up the nutrients.
How do you harvest those?
Same way. Well, this is like a garden type thing.
Will you come pull my combine out on the pond?
Wait a minute here. Their perfect tone to recover is going to have to buy some new equipment if we're going this route.
You see those barges that have
Hey,
excavators for gold
I
mining?
want to hit on something. We got one video. I think it was the Williams field,
Okay.
and it was just wet as could be.
Yep.
And everybody wants to know why you don't farm rice.
Yep.
You don't have a market for it here.
No.
Nor do you have a way to harvest
No.
it. It goes back to it's not that simple. There's so
That'd
many
be
more.
a heck
Yeah.
of an investment for one field.
Yeah, for what is it, 12 acres?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I done spent $3 million.
So I can
Yeah.
farm out 12 acres of rice.
Yeah.
Hey, Chris, what are we having for dinner? Fried rice.
Actually, in the U.S., the rice is planted dry
Is it really?
and then flooded
Really?
for weed control. They flood rice for weed control,
Really?
grass control.
Never knew
That's
that.
the only reason
I couldn't even get that field dry to plant, so I don't know how I was going to get rice planted. Now, when you see rice planted like in Japan or whatever, they've got the manpower. They plant in the mud, but
But they plant it by hand.
they plant it by hand. They're out there setting the plants, or they got a little 2-row machine they're pedaling through, or
You could
something.
employ some fish. No?
I just love people. We call them desk farmers, like
Keyboard farmers.
Yeah.
keyboard farmers.
Yeah.
It's just like I probably that video's been out since May or June, and I probably get 2 comments a week. Just tell them to plant rice.
Yeah,
Oh, I know what I'm doing now
yeah.
for a while.
But go back to the solar panels. We're losing a lot of good farm ground to solar panels. But they're being placed strategically because they need to be close to a substation, power substation, to tie into that voltage. So,
And I want to be clear. I'm not saying solar panels are a bad thing, but there's consequences to
yep.
that.
So we're losing some good ground. And when I talk to a solar panel person, and I see it coming, I think as the solar takes off electric, we're going to get these electric vehicles, which is going to cut back on our ethanol, which is going to cut our need for corn.
I don't think
They
it's
say, well, we're helping farmers by putting panels on their ground. But you've helped one farmer,
farmer, yeah.
and you've hurt the whole nation of farmers by taking
Right.
ethanol away.
I mean, so we're getting. This is my take on electric vehicles and solar. Honestly, we're getting there. We're not there yet.
No.
We are actually, though we're getting there. As I just said, we're far from it.
Yep.
You know?
No, we're way far from 'em.
Yeah, the efficiency in charging, the efficiency in storing, it's not there yet. And
I don't think that's my biggest thing. If I could buy an electric pickup and pull up to a charging station and charge my batteries in the time it fills up a tank of gas and be ready to go again,
yeah,
it'd be great.
Or I'll tell you, I'll
But
give you,
sit there 6 or 7
well,
hours
I'll
waiting
give
to
you one
charge.
better. If I could charge my pickup overnight and be guaranteed to drive for 12 hours and
Yeah.
park it again, I'd probably be all right with that too.
Well, you can't buy a tank of gas and drive 12 hours.
Well, I'm just saying.
But if you could charge your batteries in the time you fill up with a tank of gas
Yeah.
and take off.
So here's my other thing I just had this conversation with another friend of mine with electric vehicles, and they were specifically talking about electric semi-trucks.
Mm-hmm.
What's your truck weigh? Empty.
my truck weighs 37,000.
37,000 pounds. So you can put 100,000 pounds on it?
Is Officer Hoover listening?
That's my question. So
I can-
how much can you put on it?
Legally, without a permit, 80,000. With a permit, 119.
Okay. So at 30,000 pounds empty, what do you think that electric truck would weigh?
I have no
With
idea.
drive-
Oh, empty.
motor.
I think I've seen a few. Well, there's different versions, but you're into 50,000-ish pounds.
So now your truck now weighs more than you
You
can
can haul.
haul,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and nobody
Well,
sees an
here's
issue with that.
Here's the other thing nobody talks about with these electric vehicles. We live out here in rural America. Chris just went to Walmart. What, 45 miles round trip?
Yeah.
45, 50 miles round trip. Everywhere we go is 45, 50 miles round trip,
Yep.
no matter what we want to do. We drive a lot of miles. We have to get to where nothing's close. We choose to live that lifestyle. We love this lifestyle. We wouldn't change it any other way.
Right.
If you live in a city, you may not drive 50 miles in a week.
Yeah.
Depending on what you're doing and what you got going. So if I lived in downtown city or suburbia, I honestly would probably consider an electric vehicle because it would fit what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
What we're doing out here, it is 100% unrealistic.
Right.
Period. It's no different than whenever I did the stuff with the Volvo electric stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I said it right there in the videos, and I stand by it today. Working in one of these stadium jobs or in certain applications, that is the machine for the job. What I do here can't be done. It's not possible.
So now my take on that too is that it's not the machine for the job, but I think it's important that they're trying.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, and they do have a place.
Yeah, they got to start somewhere,
Electric vehicles have a place,
Yeah.
but don't force us. Don't people
regulate the hell out of
the
us.
people who are forcing it don't realize the other applications they're affecting.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
How many people that are making these rules and regulations are shoving this stuff down our throats have never come out here and worked a day in our lives and seen how we use vehicles?
Well, you're getting right back to my lifestyle. You're making rules and regulations over my farming and don't realize how it's affecting my lifestyle.
Right.
Or everybody else's lifestyle
Yeah.
that depends on you.
Yeah.
Which, spoiler alert, is
And
everybody.
that can go for a lot of different things. People making these rules and regulations over stuff they know nothing about.
My question with these solar panels is, why ain't we got them on Walmart parking lots? They could be a parking garage / solar field. Just cover the whole Walmart parking lot.
Well,
Why ain't all these shopping centers solar panels?
Well, you mean you're double using the land?
Yeah, why can't we?
You guys have to stop. You gonna start building parking garages?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, to Chris's point, there's a lot of valuable places to put solar panels in
I was just
prime
kidding.
farm ground.
If I build a new shop one of these days, on the south side, the whole roof's going to be solar panels.
Well, I want to point out something there. Is from future podcasts, you guys may know, we specialize in energy efficient buildings. And up until the last
That is not future podcast.
past,
There you go.
okay. But up until the last 4 or 5 years, solar panels were not a good return on investment.
Yeah.
And they're still just barely cresting that.
And they're just now getting to the point where they're affordable enough for a couple different reasons. Energy prices have went up. Price of solar panels have went down.
Efficiency is getting better.
To where you can't actually get a return on investment.
Is government subsidizing solar panels yet or not?
I think right now I don't think they are federally, but I think they are state by state.
Yeah, they had their hands in it for a while, and then they took them back out, which is amazing.
But we may have to get Aaron back on here to do another podcast about what's going on with some of these power plants because their solar plant is not working, and we are in a crisis.
Yeah. Oh, I saw. Let's see if I can find it. I saw an article that you'd probably get a kick out of.
I'm going to say with our Southern Indiana Power co-op we're in here, I don't know how effective panels are because they won't let you go net zero on a bill.
No, but also where we get all of our power from, they're closing down power plants left and right.
Yeah.
And we're very fortunate to have pretty low energy costs right here.
Blesh Brothers over there at Holland, Indiana, put in some solar panels to run their business. They're hooked in with Vectren. Vectren will let them have a $0 bill. So, there's months they don't even have no electric bill. But Southern Indiana Power Co-op, they will not let us go net zero. So even though you're producing enough power and more power than what you need, you're still getting charged
a minimum fee.
A minimum fee through a co-op. So that's the only downfall in our area.
I'm not going to complain too much about our local co-op.
Oh, they do good. They do good.
Because all in all, we're pretty lucky. Yep. They're not perfect, but they're pretty lucky to have them.
I can't find the article, but I can sum it up for you. There's a certain state in the country that's thinking a little backwards a lot of the times. And
is it in the West?
It could be the westernmost. And they are limiting people from charging their electric vehicles because it's too much of a draw on the power grid.
Really?
So after pushing everybody and regulating everybody to buy these electric vehicles, they now realize that they have created a large oopsie in a sense of struggling power infrastructure.
Which goes back to people making decisions that have no idea what they're...
Exactly.
I'm not going to say they don't have any idea what they're doing. They don't understand the consequences of their decisions. I think that's what needs to be stressed.
Yeah, they don't understand real-world application in the sense that, okay, so you may be an expert on renewable energy, but you're not an expert in transportation. You're not an expert in power delivery. You're not, you don't know how many people have cars.
Along those lines, Chris, I think it was about a year ago we had a conversation where they changed the rules on the square foot a hog needs to have to be raised.
And that come into effect January the 1st, Proposition 12 in California. Yeah.
So, I mean, that right there is going to affect food prices.
Any meat sold in California, the farrowing pigs, well, not the farrowing, I guess the gestation and finished pigs need so many square feet. And that's California voted through for California.
Which basically means how many hogs can be in a barn.
How many pigs can be in a barn, which you would think if that's a California rule, it's only going to affect California. No. How many pigs are raised in California and how many processing plants are in California?
Most of them, right? Yeah.
So even though I don't plan on selling meat to California, the integrator we're with selling, to this processor, they're just going to say, okay, all of our customers have to abide by these rules, so we don't have to keep it separate. So we know it's all safe to go to.
Oh, so it's any hog that California buys.
Any meat that goes into California has to be raised under Proposition 12 rules.
Wow. How can they even?
So that's going to affect the whole nation.
I don't understand how you could make a regulation in your state.
So now we need twice as many barns that everybody hates to be their neighbors to raise the same amount of pigs.
Right.
As what we're producing right now.
To feed the same amount of mouths.
Yeah.
Which means twice as many construction materials, twice as much fossil fuels burnt to do all that.
What the hell are you doing sitting here?
I mean,
let's get to work.
But again,
that's.
Yeah, any meat sold into California has to be raised under these
At
rules.
what point does somebody just say screw it? It ain't worth it. I mean, like don't do that. Please don't do that. But I'm just thinking. That's a lot of headache to deal with for what?
Yes, it is.
So what's the industry doing about? I mean, what's the take on that?
Right now, I have not seen nothing in southern Indiana take place. I have not heard nothing take place yet. So luckily, the animals I'm raising, I'm a gilt development unit for a sow farm. So our animals take a large amount of space already. I don't know if it'll affect what we're doing.
But there's no doubt it's going to affect pork prices.
It's going to affect the pork prices majorly, yes.
What happens if they just say no?
You're going to see some very expensive bacon in California. Which I think not even on the pork. I think the laying hens, chickens are included in on this too.
I had heard something before about I think you might have told me about the free range requirements or something.
They do have some barns out there. All the chickens are running in a barn.
Yeah.
And they're manipulating the lights, computer or electronically,
to
make them go to the little huts to make them lay eggs. That lands on conveyor belts that goes to.
Oh God, that's not what I was thinking. I think there's a square footage for what's considered free range. And it's something like 2 square foot per bird or something.
Well, we're not going to get political here, but I want people to make sure they understand one thing. Elected officials are making these decisions.
Oh, yeah.
So if you leave an area, you don't like what's going on.
Oh, God.
Keep in mind whenever you elect officials in the next spot.
Yeah.
If you leave an area that you don't like what's going on, do not come to Indiana.
Well, I didn't say that. Well, you can't go somewhere else and vote the same way and expect the same stuff not to happen.
No, it's
I mean, it's the reality of it.
Without even going that far into it, elected officials are making these decisions. If you do not like what's going on, perhaps do a little research into the people running before electing. Don't just walk in.
We've actually got one gentleman in the county I got to meet last fall. Mike has had some conversations with him. He moved from California to Indiana because it was a red state. The only reason he moved to Indiana because it was a red state and he wanted to get out of California.
I know this guy.
Yeah, you met this guy.
I
You
know
met
this
him
guy.
too. Unreal.
Yeah.
I could not
He called
imagine
me
moving
some-
or picking
he
my
called me
house.
some not very nice things.
Oh, did he?
Well, that's not necessary.
Recently?
We'll talk about that later.
Okay.
That's a good story.
So,
Um,
no,
No.
we got along fine, but
Yeah.
and I'm not
But yes, it's
I'm not going Republican or Democrat
Yeah.
here. One's as guilty as the other.
I hate
So
them both equally.
it's you need to research the candidate,
Yes.
and if these candidates are going to make decisions on how much area a cow or a chicken or a pig needs to
Yep.
live, that needs to be based on more than public peer pressure.
yes.
Honestly,
I guess.
I think it's fair to assume that they need to buy the Halloween costume, dress up as the animal, and act like it for a week. That's real life research.
They may be surprised how well they actually get treated.
Yeah. Or how well they fit in.
Well, I mean, the reality of raising livestock for food is the way the ecosystem works. I mean, it's we've been to Texas.
Yeah.
We've seen the wild pigs.
Yeah.
If they want cheap bacon, I guess go down there and go hunting.
Yep.
I don't know.
You know, just in what little industry I know about the pigs, you know, a female pig or a sow, you know, spent most of its time in a farrowing crate, which is when it's giving birth or raising the youth. And then it goes to a gestation crate, which is an individual pen. They've got ample room to move, but they're penned individually.
Right.
So now we got to do away with gestation crates. So now we got to pen gestation these animals. So pigs are ranking animals. There's a top one and there's a bottom one.
Yes.
And when you take sows that's been penned in a crate for 4 weeks
Uh-huh.
and take 25 of them and put them in a pen,
They got to establish a pecking order.
it's a fight, and some of them get killed, and some of them don't make it. I don't see how that's any more humane
Actually, I would
than
argue,
putting them in their single pens and letting them be
yeah.
happy where they're at.
I'd argue the latter.
not-
It's probably not humane.
Yeah.
So,
And they got to do that 4 times a year.
because somebody somewhere sat behind
Yeah.
a keyboard.
Did not like gestation crates.
Right.
So now we put them in these gestation pens. Well, now we're putting them in these pens too close. So now we got to make these pens bigger so they've got more room to spread out.
Right.
Which basically means they have more room to fight.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, because they spread out and they build
Yeah.
houses and,
Yeah.
you know, they have their own subdivision. You see pig
Yeah,
churches.
And then they go to the grocery store and they just can't believe why bacon's so high. It's just
Oh, I
crazy.
know.
The
Don't get me
good
started.
one
It's
for
that
me is
fertilizer. Back to the fertilizer.
you got relatives come from out of town, you know, and your neighbor's got a sign out there that says eggs for $2 a dozen.
Right.
They're not going to buy country eggs. They got to buy their eggs from Walmart. They buy the city eggs.
Yeah.
Does the Walmart got eggs or chickens on the roof? Or, I mean, where's these city eggs?
No, Chris, that's where the solar panels go.
Yeah, they don't. They can't buy the country eggs. They
But
got to
their
buy
eggs
the
are
city
white
eggs.
and our eggs are brown.
They have,
don't
Walmart actually has chickens in the frozen section.
I don't think those are laying eggs
Those
anymore.
ain't laying eggs.
Well, where do they come from? That's the only chicken I can find in the grocery store.
Oh, my
But no, it's your large corporations pushing these rules. I did haul livestock on and off for about 15 years with our own truck and for another farmer. And, you know, we're sitting there unloading at these processing facilities. This facility we hauled to killed 10,000 head a day. I mean, it's a pretty large facility. And you've got McDonald's and Wendy's reps out there watching you unload. And then they're the ones that's calling the humane shots, which they're the end users. So they're the ones buying the product. So, yes, the corporate's going to listen to what they want because we want to say the product. So then they pass the rules on to us. And,
Right.
well, Wendy's and McDonald's got more money than me or you are put together to fight against them. So that's just the way the world goes. But
Right.
the only way to fight against them is for us to, you know, I'll give a shameless plug for the Farm Bureau. I mean, we got to get
Ain't no,
rallied into one voice.
yeah. So there's no reason not to get a
And then
voice.
now, even the meeting I had the other day is not only the Farm Bureau big enough to put our voice together. We're joining forces with the American Soybean Association. We're joining forces with the American Corn Growers Association. We're trying to rally all of our. We even joined forces with Indiana Feed the Hungry. You know, we got to get our voice because farmers is 2% of the world's population.
Okay.
we got to get one big group and get really loud and bring as many grassroots people with us
and be as persistent as possible
and be there every day.
Yeah. Well, if I remember correctly, the special forces in the military say it takes 3% of a population to overthrow a country.
Is that what it is?
Yeah. So you're pretty damn
And I don't
close.
even know if we want to go down this road, but just like the conversation we had the other day, and I ain't picking on nobody here, I'm just using it for an example, was last year at Indiana session, general session, is the teachers rallied together at Indianapolis.
Okay.
They had 7,000 teachers in Indianapolis in one day. I mean, they surrounded the whole state
a
house.
lot of teachers.
But where were they at the second day? Where was they at the third day? They were
Oh,
gone.
I see what you're saying.
They rallied a great big voice, and they were not persistent.
Mm-hmm.
Farm Bureau, we might send 20 people, 30 people a day there.
A day.
We're there every day. You know, they don't forget who the Farm Bureau is when they're in session because somebody's there.
Right.
and
You just
and
got to be polite and be persistent.
Mm-hmm.
The rallies.
It goes back to the squeaky wheel gets the oil.
Yeah.
That's what it
Squeaky
comes
wheel
down
gets
to
the
a lot
grease.
of it. So, I guess kind of in closing here, or wrapping this up a little bit, we talked a lot about 2022.
Yep.
What's 2023, 2024, 2025? I mean, I know everything's a stab in the dark, and because in 2019 we never would have dreamed COVID was a
I
thing.
know.
So who knows what's going to come up? But do you think these high prices are here to stay? Do you think we'll peak out this year and start going down?
No, it's all in supply and demand. I mean, you got these high prices, so all these manufacturers are wrapping up and going to flood the market.
Right.
You know, they're wanting a piece of the pie.
So do you think
There's
we'll
been some fertilizer plants offline. They've come back online. I mean, these guys want the money. I think they're going to flood the market. Mm-hmm. They're not going to flood the market quick enough for this year. So I think as we go through 2022, I think you'll see a lot of the fertilizer chemical prices soften. As far as grain prices this fall, you know, it's going to be a lot of Mother Nature. I mean, it's just, man,
Do you think you'll get
grain takes rain.
Do you think you'll get lucky enough in 2023 where inputs will be minus 3x and outputs are up?
I don't know if they'll ever be minus 3x, but I think the profit margin will be bigger.
So basically, it's just survive 2022.
Yeah, we're just kind of going in for our farm. I mean, we're kind of going we're just knocking her down a notch, and I mean, we ain't gonna short nothing. I mean, we're just trying to, like I said before, do you want to depends on how much money you want to put out there up front, because basically it's all
literally,
paid
how
up
much
front.
money do you want to bury in the ground? See how much pops
How
up?
much money? How far do you want to stretch your neck and put yourself at risk? Farming has been a struggle. 2016, maybe 2015, 17, 18. There was some losses in some farming, even though. So a lot of assets already got collateral against it.
Okay.
So our asset to debt ratio is maxed out on a lot of these farms. They've had to re-borrow money or re-collateral stuff they've had paid off.
Yep.
Now, 2020, 21, hopefully some of that got paid back off, but now you're having to use your 2021 profit to pay
2022.
the
Yeah, I
plan of
think
2022 crop.
To kind of clear up what you're saying there a little bit, I don't think a lot of people realize a lot of farmers are asset heavy, cash poor.
Exactly.
So basically, they own a lot of stuff, whether it be equipment or land or et cetera. But as far as actually money in the bank is minimal.
Yeah, I can't take a pile of turkey litter and buy McDonald's with it. You know,
Right.
I can't take my tractor and buy a semi-load of fertilizer with it. Yeah, it's
Arguably, if you have a pile of turkey litter, you've already got McDonald's. Sorry, John.
I just had that for supper now.
I think you can also, you could also apply our conversation to farming tonight to a lot of other industries going
yeah.
on.
I think so too.
I think it's, whether it be parts or food or toilet paper or whatever, There's just not one thing that affects it. And it also kind of, whether it's scary or not, it kind of proves how fragile our ecosystem.
I was going to say vulnerable we
are.
Absolutely.
And it goes back to being the world market. You know what I mean? One thing happens over there, it affects us here. We're, back in Abraham Lincoln's days, I'm going to say that because he used to live here. We had a local sawmill. We had a local everything. If something bad here happened, it affects this local area.
I'm going to say another, something else I've got on my head here that it might affect 2022 looking into the glass ball.
Okay.
Will Russia invade Ukraine? Will China invade Taiwan? If either one of them happen, it might get worse yet. If they behave, I don't know.
I think you have a hunch.
So, I don't know.
I've got a hunch. We'll talk about it off air.
China will not do nothing until the Winter Olympics is over.
I think you're right. And I think that's the end of that statement. They will not do anything until the Winter Olympics are over. And
so you talk politics, talk global, but whatever. Those are two evils that can really turn our whole conversation into useless information.
Yeah.
So if one or two of those scenarios were to fruit,
I don't know how it's going to affect anything.
Maybe the whole doomsday stock up on stuff. Get a garden.
I think you can prepare, but I also think you can over-prepare.
Yeah,
I agree.
Just like the toilet paper shortage. Everybody over-prepared and just...
That's not preparing.
That's horrible.
Also,
if you run into a Walmart, straight by the canned food aisle, straight by meat, straight by any other thing that you can put in your body.
All the important stuff?
Yes, and you grab toilet paper.
Yep.
What are you going to use that toilet paper for? You don't have anything to put into you.
You can't cook toilet paper?
No.
But
I think.
if
Maybe over an
somebody
open
wants
flame.
to, I'm not say hoard, but stock or be prepared, go find your local farmer and buy some freezer beef, buy some freezer pork. I mean, a half a beef will last a family a year. Maybe a half a hog will last you a good while too. Next summer, when you see some farmers markets out and start grabbing some vegetables or produce here.
I think it's worth pointing out. You don't need to go over the top.
No.
I mean, because that's what I think the whole toilet paper thing also shows the power of social media. People not realizing the reality of what's going on, because like anybody with a brain, the last thing you're going to, like, if you're in a true pandemic, the last thing I'm worried about is toilet paper. I know. Get the essentials, some food, some milk, some bread, some eggs, some canned, non-perishable food items.
You put a lot of faith in
if your biggest issue is what you're going to wipe your hiney shiny with, and you don't have any idea what the world is really.
I can remember we was in Vegas. Everything was going wide open. We calling back home. All the whole world's shutting down. Shelves are empty of toilet paper.
That was the crisis.
We hop on a plane, fly back home. There ain't toilet paper anywhere around.
Y'all got a garden hose? A shower?
Fortunately, the Derby market had a few rolls left.
But, we flew out of Vegas Saturday, and they shut down Sunday morning.
Yeah.
We got out of there just in the nick of time.
We had soccer moms selling individual rolls out of the back of their Mercedes for $5.
Oh boy!
Around us.
Well, and then you got people taking advantage of the situation.
Yeah, right there.
But if you see something like that on Facebook, before you start hoarding it, like just stop and think. Really, is this what I really need to be latching onto right now? Like, Caveman didn't even have toilet paper, and he survived for years. Yeah. So I think you'll be just fine. So.
Arguably, he may have been better off.
So. All right, well, I think we're running a little bit long here, Chris. I appreciate you taking the time to give us your input.
Worthless knowledge.
Before we do sign it off, you talked about some organizations that do lobbying in favor of farmers.
Yep.
Is there any easy way to find out what they are, so maybe the folks interested in actually trying to make a positive change may be able to donate to these or get involved or whatever?
You know, for me, the Farm Bureau comes to the top of my head. I mean, every county, every state's got a Farm Bureau organization.
So find the Farm Bureau organization of your state.
Yep.
Probably quick Google search.
And, you know, don't let that, I better not say it, but don't take Farm Bureau as the wrong way, because they're not, I mean, they are lobbying. They're not lobbying. I think the farm is too specific.
Okay.
Farm Bureau is rural living. I mean, we're lobbying for schools. We're lobbying for hospital money. We're lobbying. I mean, we got to make the whole rural atmosphere around us. I mean, we can't be a poor old farmer out there and then nobody around to support us. So, you know, it's real lifestyle lobbying is what Farm Bureau basics down to. So don't just get too narrow-minded on Farm Bureau.
Right.
But definitely reach out to a Farm Bureau member. You know, find a Farm Bureau member. See if there's some way you can help. You know, I mean, there's a membership fee for that, which is what helps send us to these state houses.
You got a rough guess on how much it costs?
You know, Perry County for us is $32.50 a year.
So,
Minimal.
but when you
Very
get, you know, I think we got 640 voting members in Perry County. You know, you take that and add it to the other 92 counties in the state, and then take 52 states and put together as an American Farm Bureau.
right.
We get a pretty loud voice in the federal office, but still, we can only do so much up there right now. The way our government atmosphere is just pretty crazy.
Well,
so
because you're competing against Wendy's and McDonald's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Toxic.
Yes.
But no, it's, you know, just and get involved. You don't have, even if you're a member, just get involved with it. I mean, you can be a voice. We're looking for volunteers to go tell your story. I mean, that's what we need.
I think you and we have a podcast about this, volunteering in the community.
Yes, and it's a very important podcast. I think we need to revisit at some point.
I think you and I are both proof that one person can make a difference.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, we didn't even get into the rest of Chris.
Yeah.
You know, you growing up through high school thinking $100,000 or 100,000 subscriber was not in the, you know, in there. But I'm a hill jack from Perry County. And, you know,
I'm just a dumb hill jack from Indiana.
I've been to Washington, D.C. twice and talking to my legislators up there. I mean, it's a voice that needs to be told.
Yeah, and I want to point out one thing that I've personally made a huge difference. Or I shouldn't say that. I shouldn't make that claim. You can agree or disagree, but I've made some changes in our community.
Yep.
And I've pushed hard for some stuff around here. And I've made a difference, and that has nothing to do with my YouTube or social media standing.
No.
I mean,
No.
that
was long before you were dirt
right,
perfect.
and I don't plan on using any of my social media platforms for political gain or anything like that. But I mean, conversations like this, I think, are just to open people's eyes to if you're passionate about it, make sure you're educated about it.
You know, Tuesday night I sat at the our local fairgrounds committee. I'm president there. Sit on that board. We didn't leave there till 10 o'clock that night. And I was on the road at 5 o'clock the next morning, driving 3 hours to Indy to sit in an 8-hour meeting for the Farm Bureau to drive back home to feed the pigs again. You know, right. So it's.
I think the video I did on the racetrack at the fairgrounds, I think it's a pretty good message in the second half of that.
That's I've replayed that several times.
There's going back to our getting involved. I don't remember if we covered this or not, but you and I have had conversations about this before, where I've asked you why you haven't run for like an actual public office, and you've always said then you got to play by the rules. So what you're saying is somebody who's just volunteering their time can respectfully make a difference.
Yeah, so here's my take on that, and it's played true here locally and semi on the state level, is I don't know what my cause is going to be this year. So whatever like right now, we're putting in a boat dock down here, and I'm fighting with a guy in Bloomington.
Right.
Well, I'm not tied to nobody. I can go up there and do or say and be a pain in the butt as big as I want. If I'm going up there as an elected official, now I got a rule book I got to play by.
Right.
So this guy can't run me off or can't tell me I got to do this, that, and the other. I'm just a very determined citizen.
Yes.
And let me tell you, a very determined citizen that goes about it the right way can be very powerful. Now, I want to stress, the right way.
I think we're going to have to talk about what the right way is in a future podcast. Maybe we can cram it in this season.
Persistent,
And I've got-
professional, the 2 Ps.
Yeah.
I've got some guys confronting me to run for, county commissioner. I rent land from 75 landowners in the county. I run for public office and make one bad decision
Yeah.
and make 10 of them mad. Now I've affected my personal life by
Right.
volunteering
Right.
for a county office, So that's,
And
that's
I know,
where I'm at.
our elected officials are very important, but I don't, whatever
Yeah.
side of the aisle they're on, I don't think anybody realizes the scrutiny they go through.
Yep.
It's, honestly, they probably don't get paid enough,
No.
especially
Like I
on a
said,
local.
we can save this
I
for
would say
another
local
podcast
level.
too.
Yeah. So, well, Chris, I appreciate you taking time to sit down.
Yep.
And
Thank you.
we got another volunteering thing to do tomorrow,
Oh.
so we gotta
Yeah.
get rounded up for that. So
So I got to link your YouTube channel. Try and link something for a farm bureau. I think that was it.
Yeah,
you're in
that's
charge
good.
of that.
I am in charge of that.
Thanks for listening, guys.
All right.
Appreciate it.
See you in the next one.